Hey, Thunder Poke is here. Today I'll recap a thriller drama film from 2011, name, Straw Dogs. Now grab a cup of coffee and enjoy the recap. Movie starts with David Sumner. He is a scriptwriter, married to the beautiful and pretty Amy. The couple decides to move into Amy's childhood home in rural Mississippi, where David hopes that the countryside will give him some motivation for the new script he is working on. When they get into town, they stop at a restaurant. The couple orders some food, but their conversation is interrupted by a good-looking stud called Charlie. David excuses himself to get some beer, leaving Charlie with Amy. The two had dated in high school, and it seems that Charlie still harbors some feelings toward Amy. At the counter, David meets a man called Tom Hedden, aka Coach. The man is a violent drunk who nearly hits the bartender for cutting him off. David feels a little awkward at the interaction, seeing that he is not used to all the violence. He also has a lean figure, so the burly men could knock him out instantly. David had hired Charlie's company to do some work on the roof of the barn as it had been destroyed by the harsh weather. Charlie promises to be there with his crew in the morning. Outside, David is shocked to find a man called Jeremy Niles in his car. Luckily, Amy controls the situation and gets Jeremy out of the car. The couple drives to the house and starts fixing it up while waiting for the movers. Amy's late father was an avid hunter with a vast collection of hunting rifles and a bear trap. Unfortunately, the guns are just for display, and Amy does not know how to fix the bear trap. The next morning, David is woken by loud music coming from outside. He finds that Charlie and his team are already at the compound, even though it's very early. He is also surprised when the men just walk into the house and grab a beer or whatever they want, even though the house should be off limits. When he mentions this to Amy, she just shrugs and mentions that the community that they live in is a pretty safe one, so everyone trusts each other. The last blow comes when the team leaves before noon. Charlie mentions that it is hunting season, so the group will be going hunting. Charlie also promises to come in an hour later, and that the roof work will be done in time. As the days go by, Charlie and his friends, Norman, Chris, and Bick, continue harassing the couple. They make lewd remarks about Amy, often following her when she is running just so they can perv on her in her tiny shorts. Amy is infuriated by this and wants David to confront the men, but David explains that Amy should just dress up more modestly. Amy heads up to shower, and while undressing, she does so in full view of the boys as payback. Charlie sees this and assumes that Amy is flirting with him. He cranks up the music, causing David to leave the house. On the drive, the bullies almost cause David to hit a truck full of logs with their travel antics. David has to get his car towed so that he can get the wheels repaired. Here, he gets to see Coach's 15-year-old daughter Janice flirt with Jeremy. Luckily, Jeremy's brother Daniel interferes before anything can happen. David visits the local restaurant for a beer. Charlie and his friends are already there. David is approached by the new coach, who invites him to the preach and play game. It is a tradition in the town where the people go to church and then go to a game that evening. David promises to attend the party with his wife in the church. David leaves mid-sermon as he is not a religious man. This causes Charlie to call him out on it, but David just advises Charlie to stop coveting his wife. At the party, Jeremy approaches Janice, who is seated with Amy and some other townspeople. When Coach sees this, he instantly starts beating up Jeremy. Jeremy retorts that Janice is his girlfriend, causing the bitter father to beat him even more. Amy interferes, and this deeply angers David, who feels that interfering in what doesn't concern you goes against his principles. At home, David is shocked to see that someone had strangled their cat. Amy is quick to blame Norman and Charlie, since they had disappeared for a few hours during the barbecue. But David is hesitant to blame them. He claims that they leave their doors unlocked, so anyone could have done it. The next day, David asks the men inside so they can help him open the bear trap. The men oblige, but Amy comes in dressed up provocatively and asks if the men have seen her cat. Later, Charlie and his friends manage to convince David to join them for a hunting trip the next day, saying that it is peak hunting season. They also provide him with a firearm. In the woods, David gets a fright when the men nearly shoot him. Soon, he is separated from the group, and he is the only one wearing an orange vest to make him visible in the fog. He soon realizes that the men have left him in the woods, and he walks to the main road. Luckily, the town's sheriff spots him and offers him a ride home. He also mentions that hunting at this time is considered poaching, showing that Charlie had lied to him. Meanwhile, Amy is back from her run. After showering, she hears someone at the door. Charlie lets himself into the house and starts reminiscing on the days when he and Amy were together. In an ugly twist of fate, Charlie ends up raping Amy right there on the couch. He soon realizes what he has done, but Norman has already made his way inside. He also rapes Amy while Charlie watches in shock. After the action, the two men leave. When David gets home, Amy is in bed. She says that they are both cowards and that they should leave. But David refuses to let a bunch of straw dogs kick him out of their home. The next day, David fires Charlie, saying that the roof is taking too long. Charlie says that they have already made orders for roofing materials, so David pays him $5,000 grand. That evening, Amy tells David that if they are to stay in the town, then they have to act like the townspeople, and that includes attending every Friday game. The couple drives to the game and sits in the pews. Meanwhile, Janice approaches Jeremy. She starts seducing him, but Jeremy is scared that Coach will beat him up again. Unfortunately, his intellectual disability causes him to forget the threat, and he follows Janice inside the school. The two end up in a storage locker where Janice starts kissing Jeremy. She wants to give Jeremy oral love, you know what I mean, right, despite her hesitation. Back in the field, Coach notices that his daughter is missing. He enlists Charlie's help in finding her after he learns that she had been seen speaking with Jeremy. Coach enters the school and starts calling out for her, causing Jeremy to panic. He grabs her by the face in an attempt to keep her quiet. Unfortunately, he holds her too tight, and she suffocates to death. The game intensifies, and Amy can hear Charlie and his team cheering up the players. This causes the memories of the rape to resurface, so she urges David to take her home. On the drive home, the couple hits Jeremy, who has escaped from the school. Jeremy's hand is broken, so David decides to call an ambulance as the nearest hospital is 40 miles away. This also means that they will have to take Jeremy to their house until the ambulance arrives. Back in the field, Charlie overhears a 911 call to the sheriff notifying him about Jeremy's whereabouts. In the ambulance, he tells Coach about this, and the men team up to go to David's house and get Jeremy so that he can explain where Janice is. The men arrive at the house and demand that David send Jeremy out. David refuses to comply, causing the men to start shooting at the house and throwing stones at the windows. Luckily, the house is still reinforced, so they cannot break their way in. A few minutes later, the sheriff drives up. He warns the men against being intoxicated and carrying loaded weapons. Unfortunately, Coach is not in the mood to listen as he shoots the sheriff dead. This causes David to panic, but he has to act fast. He has Amy help him open the bear trap and asks her to fetch her father's pistol and stay with it for safety. He switches off all the lights and directs Amy to hide Jeremy upstairs. He then starts prepping for war as he knows that the men outside will not leave. Charlie realizes that David will not back off easily, so he shoots his sports car, causing it to explode with David's hopes of leaving the town. The first person to die turns out to be Chris. He tries to get in through the window, but David nails his hands into the wood, causing the shattered glass to cut his neck fatally. David also boils some water and pours it on Coach's face, making him retreat. The men decide to ram into the house so that they can get in. Amy sees this and tries to shoot the car, catching Norman's attention to where she is. The men successfully enter the house, but Charlie is unconscious as a result. Coach gets out of the car and tries killing David, who manages to get him to shoot himself in the foot. David gets the rifle, but seeing the coach try to get back up causes him to shoot him dead. Bick emerges out of the car, and David tries to shoot, but the gun is jammed. He quickly gets a fire poker and starts hitting Bick to death with it. Unfortunately, Charlie gets up and approaches David. The two are interrupted by a scream upstairs. They find Norman trying to rape Amy again. Charlie starts arguing with Norman, giving Amy a chance to steal a rifle and kill her rapist. David also tackles Charlie, but the strong younger man is quick to retaliate. Charlie hits David down the stairs and finally gets ready to kill him. When Amy appears with a shotgun behind him, Charlie starts talking down to Amy, giving David the chance to hit his head with the bear trap. The trap successfully lodges on Charlie, and the grills start severing his neck as the couple watches. In the final scene, David looks at the burning house while Amy takes comfort in the fact that her rapists are dead, and with that the movie ends here.